So, yeah, I got to say thanks so much for kind of just jumping on this and doing this with me. It's really my first time conducting a kind of a interview podcast slash discussion. So I'm not trying to structure anything too heavily, but kind of my goal in all of this is to create like a pathway to the consumer because, from my perspective, I'm just some guy after work. I go out, I buy pot from the store, and I come back, I try it, I form my opinions, and that's great. But when it comes to the buying experience on concentrates and products like this, it's a new market that I think a lot of people don't quite understand. Like when people think of concentrates, you can think of the black market, you can think of existing users, but realistically, the people that are purchasing concentrates right now are people trying this out for the first time in a lot of cases, and so that's kind of why I created Extracted as a website, so that there was more of a resource for people to get something that they can learn about instead of a bit of the chaos that you find on social media, as an example. So.
Yeah, I completely agree that given the handcuffs that Health Canada has put on all of us as LPs, it's tough. If you're a new buyer, if you're not educated in cannabis as a whole, and you haven't tried, and I gotta admit, I have zero background in cannabis. I've learned everything that I know about this in the last 2.5 years, and there's a lot, there's a lot to learn in this business, and I was shocked by it. And I used to just think, cannabis was, a five-leaf plant that was grown outside, and they were all the same. And all
Yeah.
of a sudden, I start getting told all these strains. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. Sure, I guess there's different strains, and then people start telling me stories about, the medicinal benefits of this. And I first started hearing this, you immediately just kind of, yeah, whatever,
Yep.
placebo effect it must be. But then so many stories, and they're very similar. And then all of a sudden, these derivative products. First one I was introduced to was Shatter, and they were showing me what Shatter was, and I'm looking, going, "Oh, that's interesting." My first thought was, Health Canada will never allow this, and and lo and behold, I don't even think Health Canada even knew what it was, and nor do they care. But they don't allow us as an LP to go out and explain it. Here's what it is. Here's what it is reported to do. And if you're looking for this quality, this quality, this quality, then look at these products here. They don't even allow us to do that. So what are
That's
you as a consumer supposed to do? Stare at it through glass and go, yeah, I suppose, caviar. Well, let's give that a try. Whatever it is.
Yeah, and that's like you basically explained like you guys have a very like solid wall of like the things you can and cannot do and the things you can and cannot say, but like customers and even to that point, bud tenders, people selling the products out are missing some of that education because even for those people who may have decent cannabis experience, it's still like so new. So it's
Yeah.
definitely one of those interesting challenges. And so you said that.
The biggest frustration with the bud tenders is, they're a fairly nomadic group. They move around quite a bit, or they drift in and drift out. So you'll visit at a dispensary and bring the 18 people or the 7 people or whomever it is up to speed with your products, and then you know you, 3 months later, there's only 2 people left who were there the first time, and you're like, oh crap, okay, how do I continually reach you and continually get it so that you understand the products, and particularly now that with Premium 5, it wasn't bad with Heritage and our brands with Pure Vita and Pure Pharma. We got a vape cartridge, we have tinctures, um, tinctures, yeah, sleep, CBD, whatever you're looking for. But yeah, when it comes to trying to educate a bud tender, we have a unique oil in that it's a full spectrum, not made by distillate vape cartridge,
Yeah.
and trying to get people to understand the difference between that and a flavored distillate pen,
Yeah. And
and
that
not being able to advertise that.
and it brings challenges too when it's I guess the reality of the market and especially with concentrates and vapes because you mentioned full spectrum and a lot of people I can't remember which brand it was, but somebody posted a full spectrum cartridge, but it was actually BHO, I think, with like some kind of cannabis derived terpenes inside of it mixed with it, right? And so
Right.
on top of you guys being like, hey, look, we're really offering this product that's really real. And I know from experience a full spectrum product is a lot different than just like a distillate, which I both enjoy each of them in their own ways, but like you get a lot more with that. And so if you're, going out with that expectation, even as an experienced consumer, and you get some full spectrum product and it's BHO with a terpene mix of some sort in there, it's a bit of a chaotic challenge even for that kind of thing, right? So
Yeah, now you're left with the consumer who is generally not an educated consumer. I'd say maybe 15-20% are educated.
yep.
That can come in and they'll know what they want when they walk into the store. They don't need to talk to a bud tender.
Yep.
So it's the other 80% that they're saying, hi, my neighbor told me that CBD would work for me. Can you give me CBD? Rather than, what are you looking to use it for?
Yeah.
And
Or even like in my case, it's like what I like different flavors and variety of terpenes and trying, like ultra sour as a strain is one of my favorites because it's got a real bright flavor to it. So I go to the store and I'm like, hey guys, like what can you recommend me as fruity strains? And they go, well, we've been told this, or, this guy had said these kind of things. And it's hard, even as an educated consumer, to make some kind of decisions when there's that sort of like inability to get that understanding of products to us, and there's just a lot of walls around that. But yes,
the funniest part, though, or the one that we get the most challenge with, is the provinces,
yeah,
the buyers. Some of the buyers are extremely good and extremely knowledgeable, but the vast majority of them are, they're like wine buyers. Oh, I gotta fill this category. What do you guys got that fills this category? And you're looking at them like, come on, man.
yeah. That's a great point. So I'm just going to bring it back a little bit here, and I was going to say, so you've been in the cannabis industry for about 2.5 years now. Can you tell me a little bit how you got started in that? How Heritage was kind of founded as a business, or a little bit about your background, if that's possible?
Sure. I'm a businessman by accountant by education. Heritage is my fifth business that I've run. So in the last 20, almost 30 years. That I'm been actively involved in, and when I was, it's funny. I was part of a group that owned a public shell, and we were in oil and gas. And at back in 2014, 2015, when it started to really fall off, we had drilled three wells rather successfully, and then watched the price of oil just crater. Not kidding. The very same week we drilled, oil cratered.
It's funny because just to interject here, at that year I was working for a medical company that serviced the oil and gas industry, so I was laid off. I was laid off in 2015, I think. So.
Well, we were looking at this going, we just went from having an economical well to an uneconomical well. The only one who would make money off of it was the operator, so we sold it back to him. For not a lot of money. And so our farm-in agreement was basically canceled, and we walked away with, we turned $2 million into a few $100,000, and we're looking at each other going, well, now what? and cannabis was just getting heated up a little bit in Canada. My business partner went off and went looking for something to get involved in. I was passively involved. I was actively involved at one of my other companies at the time. And then he brought this opportunity. So we took a look at it, didn't really understand what we were looking at. I'd say it's probably luck more than anything else that we stumbled on someone who was putting together a strong application, and we ended up with Heritage. And it was 2.5 years ago that we had got our license, we had built everything up, but we were kind of at an inflection point. It was very obvious in cannabis that and it's funny, we sat down, it was one piece of paper, one pen, and a calculator. And as we were going through news releases, how many millions of square feet does this guy have? How many hundreds of thousands of square feet? and all these announcements and all these ready to goes, and and then I had to phone somebody who actually knew what they were talking about when it came to growing plants. I said, how many plants can you grow per square foot? How many grams per plant can you reasonably expect to get in a year? And I think we just took the 15 of the 18 public companies that were the most active with news releases at the time, and we determined that every man, woman, and child in this country would have to consume like 6.5 kilograms of cannabis in order for all of this product to be used up. So then I had to ask, is 6.5 kilograms a lot? It sounds like a lot. Maybe it's not. Turns out it's a lot. So and it turns out that couldn't be the case. So we decided, okay, we're at an inflection point. We needed to get bigger, faster. We needed to get into a different part of the business, and it was go one direction or the other. There wasn't going to be any middle ground. My background was in growing businesses, so the business that I was running at the time, Modulac, had at the time an extraordinarily strong management team. My business partner stepped in to run it, and still does to this day, and does an extraordinary job at it. So that allowed me to put all my time into Heritage. I severely underestimated the amount of time that this business would take. It is all encompassing. It is, you're working 12 hours a day, every single day. Weekends, weekdays are all the same. It doesn't particularly matter.
Yeah.
And then we built something. We acquired CannCare out in Fort Erie, picked up that facility, and then pivoted to doing extraction. Found the guys at Purefarma, ultra talented when it comes to making oil, extraordinary. They needed help on the business side, so we combined our efforts and started to grow. And took a while to get our sales license. That was the biggest holdup. Didn't get our first sales license until last April. But once we got that, it just accelerated things. We were doing products on behalf of other people to like the vape pen, stuff like that. And that was fine. It paid some bills, but ultimately the Canadian cannabis industry is quickly becoming extremely competitive, and there's just not enough margin to share between, if you've got one LP wants to contract another LP, both want to make their margins. The province wants to make their margins, the dispensary wants to make their margins, and now you end up with a $50 vape pen. And then the consumer looks at this through glass, not able to determine why would I do this or do that, and we're not here able to tell them.
Yeah.
So we can just go, but ours is
No, I mean, you can say
different color.
Yeah, you can definitely say what you want, and it's kind of interesting because you mentioned the Pure Vita guys and being extremely talented. The one thing that's amazed me, and that's actually been really impressive about the legal market, is regardless of the kind of my perception on the product quality, the process that's been made to get the product into my hands has always been extremely high quality. Like in the legacy market, it was like, man, sometimes you just like, you would buy something, it wasn't good. There's been products that have been not good, and it's likely due to starting material, again, in my opinion on that case. But, it's been really interesting to see how this market, especially with the concentrates, has been so unbelievably consistent for product quality. And yet it's so misunderstood as, from that perspective type deal. So,
and you know what, I hear that a lot of people really bash on the legal market for its quality versus the legacy market. And when I talk to my guys who are well versed on it, they don't agree. No. In fact, the legacy market, there's some fine product out there.
Yep.
But you're relying heavily, and I mean heavily, on the integrity of the guy who's making it. And you're relying that he's not putting pesticides on there. You're relying that he's not using anything that has been banned as a substance, and because in the end you're lighting this on fire and you're sucking it into your lungs.
Yep.
And if you're sucking pesticides into your lungs, that's dangerous.
Definitely.
No other way to say it. It's dangerous. So the way that we have had to do it is, these guys, and they're strict. They're extraordinary when it comes to their discipline and how they make the product. You talk about the consistency of product,
Yeah.
and you're right. You can't make great product off of poor input. It's no different from making wine. There's no such thing as making great wine with bad grapes. And as my guys have explained to me, he says, there's an alchemy scale that he goes, I can make good product from mediocre input. I can make great product from good input. I can make fantastic product from great input, but I cannot make fantastic product from mediocre because I can't do it.
Yeah.
So as an end, we've when we decided we weren't going to grow, that took some of that control out of our hands. But at the same time, Canada has phenomenal growers. It has hundreds of them, and all you need to do is go and find them.
Yep.
It has some ones that aren't as good, and that's fine too. We just don't touch them. And fortunately for our guys, they're knowledgeable enough, and their network is so large in this industry that they're able to go, you come on in, and the excess of product out there is extreme. Is there an extreme amount of product out there?
Yeah.
So we have great, and I don't think it'll always be that way, but it is for now, and until that other something else happens, that's what it's going to be.
Nice. So just I had one of the questions I thought was kind of interesting, just bringing it back to Heritage. Like, from a consumer perspective, me going to the store, is there anything that I should know about Heritage, or realistically as a consumer, I'm only really concerned about Platinum 5, Rad, Pure Vita, all the other brands that you guys are, I think those are really, I'll ask you that too. Are those the only brands that you guys have on the recreational market right now?
So right now you'll have, so the funny thing is, what do you want to know about Heritage? You won't see our name in a store.
Yeah.
And weirdly, we're going to change that. That's one of the things that we're noticing is a challenge when it comes to selling. Whereas the way that we put this together, and we wanted to preserve the history and the legacy and the names, stuff like that. And here we are thinking we're doing a great thing. Meanwhile, there'll be people walking through the door and saying, I want a product by Heritage. And the bud tender looks at them, we don't have a Heritage product here. What are you talking about? He goes, oh, you do? You have Pure Vita, you have Purefarma. Like, well, who the hell is Heritage? So now we're starting to figure out, okay, this is a problem. And because we're a public company and we have over 30,000 shareholders, and vast majority of them would literally like to try our products, unless you go in and ask for a name, by name, you're not going to get a bud tender who's knowledgeable enough to figure that out. So now that we've had the deal with Premium5 is closed, so we've got the Pure Vita and the Purefarma. Those are the two brands from Heritage. And then Premium5, which is a premium product, as the name would suggest. And then they have a value brand that they just recently introduced as Rad.
Yep.
Really awesome dope. That's where they get the name from.
Nice.
So now we have kind of the value side being Rad and a little bit of the Pure Vita. We have kind of a mid-range being another part of the Pure Vita and the Purefarma, and then the premium over here with the Premium5 products.
Nice.
Still not crystal clear to the consumer, and for that matter, we're not done yet. We'll be introducing a couple more brands out there that trigger another end of the market as well.
Nice.
Because throwing everything under one name, people just don't. People don't always want to stick with the same this, same that, but at the same time, they don't want you giving the exact same product, just a different name. That's not cool either.
Yep.
So there's been a lot of pressure on our innovation group. We'll say they crave this kind of pressure. So that's good for us as these guys who want to come up with new products or want to introduce something revolutionary to the industry, or even just they want to sit and listen to the customer.
Yeah.
When our guys go out and visit dispensaries, it's a question that always gets asked: what are people asking for? What do they want?
Yeah.
And you get the biggest response is they want to get wrecked on the weekend. Okay, we have product for that. And as much as people want to take an altruistic view of cannabis with its medicinal qualities, it comes right down to the vast majority of people who use it want to get wrecked on the weekend.
Yeah.
So we're here to help that. However, we also have the other side of our business. So,
Yeah. Nice.
but yeah, that's some of the new things that I'm learning is like the products that Premium5 has brought with their crumble, their diamonds, their caviar, all this stuff, and even as simple as a dab that I didn't know much about when I got in. I didn't go anything when I got in the business, but even fast forward 2 years, I've been learning this as it comes along. But
Nice.
knowing small part of the market that is underserved, and we're making sure we serve it well.
Yeah, I think so. I saw just recently, just like the first post. So Rad is now in stores, and I saw the price. It's in Ontario, $41 a gram was what was listed on the post that I saw. It was like this crazy. This is like, at least for me, this is like such a crazy good deal that I think that this product, and at least this product launch, is going to significantly affect that space because. If there's any place where I feel that the value isn't aligned with the consumers is really in these concentrates. Like, it's not like, people are not expecting this to be all $40 grams or anything like that, but creating that new base. Prior to this, the San Rafael 71 live resin was $52 a gram. And so it's like this slow war that I'm starting to see, which is really exciting because this spurs innovation. It puts pressure on every producer to really, try to figure out what to do to get this at a different price. But as I've started this website, I've learned a lot about this market, and it's like the taxes and the ends of things that you guys have to manage prior to packaging it, prior to putting in the package, after putting in the package, as you get it to the provinces, as the provinces do buy, like the amount of stuff that you guys have to pay. It's like, when I saw that price, I that's like wizardry to me because, I had a guy at another company show me how the taxes work, and in BC, it's crazy. I mean, it's going to be more expensive for us in our province no matter what, like seeing the Ontario price, and that's totally expected, but that's still going to be, I believe, somewhere in the $50 range for a gram. And that sort of level of competition is just going to spur a lot of stuff to happen, and people are going to have to change because of that. And that's going to help both the bottom end of the market and the top end. So like, when I saw that, because this was like, I was doing research about this stuff, and literally somebody posted about it today, and I was like, nice, it's on the market. I guess I'm talking a little bit, but my question for you is there any way for you guys as an organization or as a business to announce what's going where? Because, it almost seems impossible for me for a company to say, hey, we're launching this product here, like Rad, we're going to launch it in Canada. And where in Canada that ends up, you guys don't know. And then, we don't know. And it's like, it's a crazy challenge. And I didn't really understand it until I started looking at these new products coming out. And I'm like, well, I can't figure out where they're ending up. So just,
Yeah. So you're kind of touching on probably, the most exposed nerve I have in this entire industry is the lack of coordination, province to province. You have a federal Health Canada, federal tax with the excise, although the provinces have their different taxes with their excise as well, and leaving us as a producer frustrated. You're talking to each of the individual provinces. Some provinces throwing open the door, wanting to learn, wanting to understand, truly wanting to give the consumer what they are asking for, or quite often not even what the consumer doesn't even know exists. And then other provinces going, man, I've already ticked that box. What else do you got? Do you have one of these? Do you have one of those? And and you look at it and you're frustrated, and then so you're staring at this province and you're going, well, you're the only place I can sell this, and it's not like I have a winery that if you can't get it at the LCBO or the BCLD, you can order it directly from the winery and they'll send you a case of their wine. You can't do that with us. You can get a prescription and you can go and buy it, but then what happens if you don't have an ailment to get a prescription? You got to lie to a doctor. It's really not a fair or an easy or even a logical way to be able to conduct what is going to be a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Yeah.
I get that this is new days, but these aren't hard product or hard problems to solve.
No.
But it kind of is where you are now. We have products such as RAD that we are giving a good, solid, strong value proposition to a buyer, to a buyer who wants value. You want premium fives there. You want that mid range. We have the Pure Vita, Purefarma, all that stuff's great. But RAD's clearly coming in there saying, and there's a reason why it's priced where it is. Biggest reason is because we can, and we can still make money on that. And the reason we can still make money on that is because we don't have a fat, bloated company. We are very lean and have always been, and that's a philosophy that Heritage has had, and it's a philosophy that Premium5 guys have. When we sat down to talk strategy, talk philosophy, that was a 10-second conversation. Like, oh yeah, perfectly aligned, move on. And by being able to offer something that is, people go, oh, your pricing is disruptive, and you're going to, no, it's not. It's actually in the range that is reasonable return for us, and gives the consumer a reasonable return. I'm not here to battle the San Rafael products. I won't say that they're not competitors. I want to make the black market user come to the legal market and give us a try. Hey man, if you don't like it, go back to the other guy. But come give us a try, because ultimately that's where it should be.
Yep.
There's a whole lot of people out there I know will argue that comment, but because they say that current legal is not legal, because there's a whole bunch of illegal still involved. However, we have a framework. We are working within this framework, and we're able to deliver high quality products for reasonable prices. And as far as I believe, the government should be looking for ways to be able to offer legal use or legal producers a bigger market to play in by shutting down others. They're not paying tax. They're not contributing to society. And they're hurting our ability to sell.
Yeah.
There's plenty of room for those in the legal business, but the legal also has to get opened up or something changed, because if they just keep issuing more and more licenses and more people able to sell to nowhere.
Yeah.
And unless the provinces are going to throw open their doors and guarantee they'll hold everybody's product all the time, then how is this a fair and competitive system?
Yeah.
So, I could waste the next 2 hours bitching about how this is set up, but ultimately I'm unhappy with it.
And that's completely fair. And I think that's from my perspective, I made a very intentional switch from the black market to the legal market, because there was I guess my qualifications for that was just simply that there was a store within my area that I could go to and buy weed. As soon as that happened, I was just going to stop purchasing. So I did that October, I guess 2019 or something like that. And since then, I've just kind of played in the legal market. I'm not a medical user in any way, shape, or form. So I've never gotten a medical card, just on principle mostly. And I just, I think it's a little disadvantageous to somebody who has a real condition they're trying to treat in that case. And so, yeah, I keep seeing this, and I keep thinking that, like, well, a lot of the market share that, companies like yours wants to capture, I think there is like a real new opportunity of these new legal users that have come on board in the last 2 years, and they've spent the last 2 years kind of smoking cannabis, trying regular products, and they get to a point where they want to be pushed over and try something new, something different. So they look at your products, and it's just, it's just an interesting challenge that I wish we could just, like you said, open the federal floodgates to more competition, more companies, make it much easier to get into and get access to this market, so that we can just by nature flush out the people in that market. Because, I mean, realistically, it wouldn't become a viable business anymore if everybody else is competing on, I guess at this new level, or it's easy enough to play in this market. So, yeah, no, I think both you and I could probably have very long conversations about where we're at, because we couldn't be further away from each other in how we're connected, but the consumer and the business are both stuck in these positions where, like, again, you look at just even talking about cannabis, we can't talk about it on Facebook, we can't talk about it on Instagram. That's why I'm on Twitter. And like, it's frustrating because that doesn't let us, as consumers, find an easy gathering place. In my opinion, if I look at Reddit, I can get some opinions on it, but it's a little bit more anonymized. It's a little less friendly than like a more social way, which unfortunately is owned by Instagram and Facebook in this time and age. So just those kind of things. It's like, we're trying to get to the same channels, but there's just nothing allowing us to get there. So I don't necessarily have anything else to continue, because we're just going to keep talking about that one specific focus. But I'll jump back a little bit back into just Heritage for a second, because I was curious about what was the decision behind purchasing Premium5? That was something interesting. You guys announced that in December. When I did my review, I saw it. I didn't think much of it, because, I mean, acquisition's an acquisition for most people, and at the end of the day, it's gonna, it's I expect the same product to continue from this company, for the most part. So
Sure.
yeah.
A few things. So Premium5 had products we didn't have. We're very committed to the extract and the extract derivative market. We're not going to be a grower, although we're going to get into edibles. It won't be in as a premium focus of our business. It'll be a sideline. And when we looked at what Premium5 had done and their areas, we had reserved these products and got products approved by Health Canada almost identical to what they had. All of our guys on the Purefarma side, they had listed out, we wanted this, we want this, we want this. And in order for us to do that, it'd be an investment of X amount of dollars, not small. And more importantly, time. Year and a half is what it would take for us to build what Premium5 already had. The cannabis industry is moving at lightning speed. When people call it, you hear it joked about a lot of times, people say, oh, it's cannabis years, like it's dog years. And, 1 year in cannabis is like 7 years to everybody else. And that's exactly it. It's now 1 year to build this would be like 7 years trying to build something else, and then your history, or you're just not, and then all of a sudden we have Premium5 as a competitor. So rather than becoming what they already were, and at the same time they were looking for infrastructure. They're a brand house. They outsourced all of their product manufacturing. So when they were talking to us about outsourcing it, and I'm looking at this going, this is a natural. I listen to the Premium5 guys talk, and they talk like the Purefarma guys. And I was thinking, man, these guys are either going to hate each other or love each other. It's going to be one of those two. And when put them together, it was amazing. I was, hear them meet each other and talk. And then that was it. Like 3 hours later, they're still going, still talking. Oh yeah, this. And we learned that, you know, they fit well into us. We fit well into them. And, it could launch us so far forward for what would be accretive value for Heritage. The amount of money and the amount of time it would have taken us to do what they were doing, um, and no guarantee of getting there, didn't make sense. But if we put it together, we could then say, and even then, if we did what they had already done, that doesn't even get us halfway to our strategic plan. So if we combine with them, then we could spend the next 12 months executing our strategic plan faster, more profitably, and really move things in a direction that would suggest that Heritage, because I'm a big believer, the cannabis industry is going to self-select. It will, you're going to see a bloodletting out there of companies, and we're not going to be one of them going down.
Nice.
We have too much visibility on the future. We have too much confidence in our products. We have too much confidence in our people, that when we look at this, and it's not false-based confidence. I run across this all the time in business. You run across people who are starting businesses, and I do a lot of mentoring and a lot of financing for new upstart businesses. And, I'll do one deal for every 100 that I look at. And usually it's false confidence. Someone's like, oh, this, oh, that, we're going to be this, we're going to be that. And you're looking and going, and I'm not saying I'm always right, but I'm right more often than I'm wrong. And you look at this and it's just a quick not happening, not going to do it. And you need to be properly funded. You need to have the proper people. You need to have the proper infrastructure. You got to build that foundation, or else you're going to blow your company up, massive amount of revenue, like we saw in this industry, with no infrastructure, and then they turn gargantuan losses. And I see these losses, and I see these revenues. You're like 40 million in a quarter. That's impressive. 40 million in revenue and a $40 million loss. So you spent 80 million to do your 40 million in revenue. It's nonsensical. At 40 million in a quarter, you got to be making a lot of money. And you can make a lot of money in this industry, but you can't be fat, bloated, and inefficient.
Yeah.
And that way that they ran their business, they were profitable. Way that we ran our business, we had a direct line to profitability. We had an infrastructure cost. Put the two of us together, they get to drop a lot of their costs that they have that they were outsourcing, bring it in, and the two of us are really profitable together, number one. Number two is we can start executing on some of this future growth. So there's some stuff that really makes a lot of sense to do in a very short period of time.
Nice.
And it's mostly south of the border, but obviously with Biden getting in the White House, it's green lights a lot of things.
Yeah, I definitely feel that, while I'm looking at Canada, I bet you right now that you're having a great week, because at least, that kind of that future outlook in that market looks great. Just, you mentioned a little bit with kind of like in-house and outsourcing. If you could maybe talk a little bit about like what was being outsourced and what you guys are going to be bringing in-house, because I don't necessarily know as much about, the details of processing, but like, if you could maybe give some context to that if possible.
Honestly, I'm not exactly sure what's happening. It's I have our ops guys are working on a plan. Some things make sense, some things don't. We will obviously bring in-house some stuff,
Yep.
but at the same time, we've got expansion plans that are taking up a lot of that capacity. So it may make sense for us to keep a lot of stuff that they're currently doing outsourced. There's companies out there that are doing a great job. And the cost savings for us to bring it in-house makes little sense. Instead, we could leave it there and go and do another product with that extra capacity that we have and just build that revenue. So,
and hey, If you ever, if it so happens that the business is great, maybe you just acquire them and then you don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
Hear that a lot too. Yeah. Yeah. And now that there's a lot of cannabis industry businesses out there that aren't healthy.
Yep.
The balance sheet's got too much weight on the wrong side, and their income statement's not strong enough to be able to support and to pay that debt or to service it or to be able to raise money off of it. And when you hit that inflection point, and it's a tough world to live in. And we get a lot of guys that are at that point that come into us and looking for an investment, looking for some sort of rescue package, I guess is the best description of it. And it's just doesn't make sense. Too much available out there right now for too cheap.
Yeah, no, and that's I mean, as a business, that's a super good spot to be in, being able to, just keep operating as usual and then having opportunities to be able to expand your business in a market that, like you said, though, there is going to be something that happens with these large businesses that are bleeding money. And when that happens, I'm sure you guys will be in a great position to potentially, grab some of the scraps here and there if possible. So
that's precisely how we're setting this, and that's why. And we started making these decisions a long time ago.
Yeah.
That maybe, and I've been scolded by shareholders about sometimes the speed in which we went, but look at them. It's like I can't sacrifice our future for our present. It doesn't make sense in any business I've ever been involved in at any time in my life. And nobody can convince me otherwise. So that said, I believe in the end it'll win out. And I'm here for the long term, and I'm here for the investor. I'm not here for the trader. So people want to trade in and out of our stock, and they want a quick 5 or 10 cent jump in a week. I'd love to give it to them, but only if that stock price stays up there. I'm not interested in it. Jumping up 5 cents one day, coming back down 5 cents the next day, because that doesn't create real value.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, like I said, with that rad stuff and what I've seen, you guys, like, we're at like day one basically of seeing the product on the market in from what I've seen. So I think it's, now that I've seen it in real life and that I've seen somebody post about it, it's exciting because, like I said, that price point, you can't make a product of that price without having some expertise within this market. Like, you look at people releasing products and they're at a super high price. They're very small producers. They're trying to be as nimble as they can. They just can't make it there. So I think it's a testament to what is established, what the Premium5 guys have done and what you guys have done, being able to put something at that price, still make money on it, and still give, like crazy value to the consumer at the end of the day. So that's exciting to me.
Yeah. Out in BC, it's going to be launching in a big way. You'll see rad, big out there.
Nice. I'm looking forward to it. I got a Spirit Leaf. That's the store I go to. It's kind of my, just a little like way of measuring to see, what ends up coming into the, into my world. So,
I love those guys. Yeah, they're great.
Just, I guess, one kind of last question is sort of like, in your opinion, like what's like the next big recreational cannabis opportunity within Canada? What do you think that is?
That's a good question. If I had a great answer for that, I'd be there already.
Yeah, I guess.
I'll tell you. So a lot of us the cannabis industry is growing month over month over month, and it's no accident that it's growing month over month over month in revenues as we open more and more and more dispensaries. You had a guess when I listened to you say, I left the black market when there was a legal store close to me. Mm-hmm. And that's it. That is precisely it. It is not like alcohol. It is not like what people will drive for 20, 25, 30 minutes to go to their favorite liquor store. It has to be within walking distance. As I explained it, it's got to be like a dry cleaner.
Yep.
Which dry cleaner do you choose? I choose the closest one to my house. Yep. And that's pretty much the way that this has to be as convenient as a black market is. And if it's not, the industry won't ultimately snuff that out. and it won't see the heights that we know it can be. So Alberta launched really well. We watched them putting out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stores while Ontario was sitting on 32. 32 stores for 15 million people. Yeah. So Alberta, with their, at the time it was 550. Now I think they're well clear of 800. And everyone's wondering, oh, there's too many, there's too many, there's too many. No, they're making money. They're making money because people want the product. So allow it to happen. Now that Ontario is up over 500 and growing on its way to 1,000, now we're starting to get traction. Now we're starting to move things forward, and that'll start getting product moving out there that otherwise wasn't moving before. There's lots of innovative products out there, and there's lots of technology coming too. For example, we have the Vesisorb technology that came with our acquisition of Optican. The Vesisorb is it's absorption technology that has your body absorbing 5 times more than it can do on its own, which when it comes to medicinals, particularly with CBD, is amazing. CBD, for example, if you take too much of it, you get unbelievable diarrhea in most people. And for children with Dravet syndrome, which CBD and a massive amount of CBD is required to help push off the seizures. Now you're able to reduce the amount of CBD that they get by 5-fold, and they still get the full effect.
Okay.
It's technology that's coming along, and we can add that technology in with THC, but you got to be careful. You won't don't want people absorbing 5 times. You're gonna have here's a term I learned in my last 2 years. You'll have a green out. All right, didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
And it's you end up with laying on the kitchen floor wishing you hadn't just done what you did.
Yeah, that's definitely, that's one of those things, but that kind of, that's a really cool concept to be able to consider, right? Because I'm not a huge fan of edibles personally. I find that the effects are just a little strange. It's never really sat well with me, but the ability to potentially be able to sell like an edible with something like Vesisorb or something like that, being 1 milligram and being substantially more effective than what you could normally purchase is I think a great insight as to what we can consider the next evolutions of cannabis. Is going to be a smaller and smaller margins of, improvement to what we're going to be doing, whether it's medical or recreational, but it's going to, the steps between each, subsequent improvement, it's just going to get smaller and smaller and smaller as we, get better and better at producing this kind of stuff. So,
yeah, the biggest idea for it is in beverage, because you have faster onset, you get a bigger blast, and it's out of your system quicker too. So, for a bar, if it's going to serve, the bar's not interested in serving you 1 beer and then you sit there all night and nurse it. And it's the same with THC beverages. It's interested in serving you 1 right now and then serving you another one in 45 minutes and another one 45 minutes from then. And you don't want the high going on top of the high going on top of the high, because that's just going to wreck you. So by having this, it's in, you get the desired effect, and it's out. And that's what it's going to make this mainstream. When people can start judging the effects and be able to mentally control it, similar to how they should be able to with alcohol. Not everyone can, but you generally know that if you're going to have 5 beers in a night, that's going to hit you. If you're going to have, some people can do 10. That's just a different setup. But it'll be one of those things that allow people to be able to regulate their own intake. Because as you mentioned, you could have a gummy and you'd be sitting there 45 minutes, you're looking at your buddy and anything? No, no.
Yeah, that's definitely cool. And you bring up a really interesting point about that concept of like being high and then, experiencing that effect and then getting out of it. And I think that's really cool because my biggest issue with the edibles is that the high that I enjoy is usually that onset of like, well, depending if it's a drink, it's usually the first 45 minutes of it. If it's an edible, it's after like an hour to 2 hours after I've eaten it for maybe an hour or so. But like after that, like I'm kind of tired of the effects, like I'm like, I don't really need this anymore, but it lingers on and it lingers on.
Yeah.
And so that's why I've never been huge on it. Whereas with, smoking cannabis and to some degree, even more with concentrates, is that the onset of the effects are quicker, and they tend to cut off a little bit more rapidly. With like, I don't want to say less side effects. I mean, you smoke, you get high, and then you're always going to some degree have a burnout or that kind of like the opposite of your effects. So it's just kind of a cool concept to hear. And yeah, definitely the beverages is one that I've been personally most excited about, and an innovation that I don't think could have happened without a legal market. That sort of, fast acting thing.
Yeah.
If it were still in a black market situation, that would have been launched as a medical thing. It would have been a medical product for people with, certain conditions that they can use in a very limited scope of use precisely for things. Now that we got the rec market, it's just kind of like, hey, now we get drinks. So, so yeah. Sweet. Well, I mean, that's kind of most great conversation. Kind of all the topics I wanted to touch on, and just get a little bit of a prod into what you're thinking and kind of your perspective. It's been an awesome opportunity to be able to talk to you because, like I said, we're two very distant individuals within the same market, and getting that connection. I mean, I'm going to be able to use some of this stuff on social media, get some provide people insights as to kind of what you're thinking about the world that you live in, because people don't really get to hear about that, and they make a lot of assumptions. So it's been a great pleasure to talk through this in this world with you. So
I noticed you go on social media and you start talking, and particularly on Twitter when you ask, hey, I'm going to be talking to him. What do you want to know? And then also when the stockheads come out.
Yeah.
And you don't get the cannabis questions. You got what's going on with the company, what's going on with the stock, and you're. I notice you going, yeah, it's not really where we're looking at with this.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. Yeah, because that's a whole nother world, like the stock fans, and you have following for that reason, and that was cool to see that engagement on that front. But definitely, cool that Twitter seems to be the place where the cannabis industry has kind of found its home. So, great to see that. I actually had a question about your Twitter profile. You have a banner of like a Honda CRX. Driving on a track. Do you like to race cars or anything like that?
I do, yeah.
Nice.
There's a track in Manitoba. I spent 10 years in Manitoba and growing up. So my brother still lives there, my mother and my stepfather. So I go out and visit quite a bit. And my brother is he and his buddy is a mechanic. They race cars. So about 7 or 8 years ago, he invited me to come out and just watch. And so I took a couple of test laps, and I ended up timing. They were timing the laps, and I was going faster than they were. So he said, he goes, hey man, you're a natural at this. Why don't you come out and race? So they built me a car, and I go out and race. Won their championship, the club championship. But I wasn't allowed to race in 2020. They wouldn't let me in the province. Something about Ontario being dirty, COVID. But we ended up winning the championship in 2019, and it was pretty fun. So it's for considering it's a cheap car, you can get like a CRX. You can buy a really nice one for about $5,000, and you put about $50,000 worth of parts into the thing. And then you go racing and you go bumper to bumper. And if you end up wrecking your car, you buy a new one for $5,000. You take the parts out of the old one, you put them in the new one, and you go off and race.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of like drag racing, and so I want to LS swap a car, just an LS V8 engine. I know the transmission I want. I know the rear axle I want. I could care less about what chassis it's on. It's going to be, if I get the money, it's going to be a tube frame and everything like that anyways. So it's that kind of like, yeah, there's car people, and then there's people who like racing cars, and really people
Yep.
who like racing cars don't really care about what they're racing as long as they get to go fast, and that's all that
Yep.
matters. So
And you know what? And to me, it can't be against the clock. It's got to be wheel to wheel. And there's there's usually somewhere around 20 guys, 25 guys in our class. And when it starts, 25 guys coming into turn one at 100 miles an hour, and and turn one is a more than a 90-degree turn, so it kind of turns and comes back. So you slow down fast, and I'll tell you, get a little bit of rain, and you look out. It's some of the most hairy experiences you'll ever have driving a car, but the fun factor is just through the roof.
yeah, it's definitely when I saw that, I was like, I just have to ask you about this because it's just too cool not to ignore that. So yeah. Other than that, like, I mean, if there was, I guess, if there's sort of like anything you want to say to consumers, or like any interesting insights, or if you ever had a platform to tell consumers one thing about maybe your products or your company, what would that be?
You know, I was and I probably continue to be. I shouldn't be after 2 years. Um, pleasantly surprised at the amount of due care and attention that our guys particularly place to their product. The the pride of the quality that it gets made is off the charts. And I've run companies with over 1,000 people before, and Heritage has just under 100. But the pride that of the product that goes out our door is unlike anything I've seen. Um, they are really, really want to put out something that people want, that people enjoy. Um, Somebody gives them a bad review or says a bad thing, and quite honestly, I've seen one. That's it. Uh, these guys will stress about how to fix it and how to correct that, and want to find out why it was a bad experience and why it was a bad this, and what they can do. And it's incredible. It's good. People say it's maybe you should focus more on efficiency than quality, and you know, yeah, you want to get into pure profit, sure, but you want to get into a customer that keeps coming back to you and stays with you because they have the belief that this indeed is the way that these guys handle this. It is, and then sitting here watching this, and you know, I'm I'm just so ecstatic about the products and the quality that they're able to put out, and because I had to go based on 100% on faith when we bought the Purefarma guys, and now with the Premium 5 guys, at least I had them to evaluate the Premium 5 guys. Mm-hmm. But when I bought Purefarma, it was based on reputation from a whole bunch of people, and I couldn't say whether it was good or bad. It's been by far the best thing we ever did.
Nice.
So looking at this, going, um, you'd rather be lucky than good. Well, I got good with luck, so that was a fortunate thing for me and for Heritage.
Nice. Sweet. Well, that's kind of everything I had for you today, man. I appreciate your time, honestly, and it's been a great pleasure to talk to you. I just want to say when I saw that I had the opportunity to interview you, I got actually more excited knowing that you had run Modulock before, because I mean that's just a massive company. So, if there's it's interesting because I was pretty happy with the Premium 5 products, but when I saw that it was acquired, and then I looked more into you and I saw that you'd had these kind of experiences, that sort of thing instills a little bit of confidence in me, because I think a lot of people in the cannabis industry have been really good at making cannabis products, but there is some need for people that have huge business experience to be able to kind of execute at levels that they may or may not understand. So
for sure.
Yeah,
we were just at. It's funny. I just got this picture sent to me. This is Modulock and down in Washington, D.C.
That is amazing. So, that's the funniest thing.
Yeah, we got a call from them a few weeks ago, just saying, "Hey, we have to, you know, fortify the Capitol and the White House, and we need a company that knows what they're doing, and we're the only ones that are licensed by both CSIS and the RCMP and bonded up here in Canada. So when they asked CSIS who should they ask in Canada, our name came up, and down went our fence to Washington. I'm thinking, God, I hope I don't see it on TV going through the window of the Capitol building.
Oh my goodness.
It's great.
One of the strangest brags you could ever have, because you're not sure if you want to be boasting about that your fence was used there, but at the same time, it's a pretty cool. I love that. That's yeah, you definitely, I mean, it's a much different life than I work in marketing, so it's not crazy like you get a call from the White House saying they need a bunch of fence, but yeah. That's it's cool that you got all that experience, and anytime in the future, you're more than welcome to come back on if you guys do some more product launches in the future. I'm more than happy to have another chat with you and get this out. We'll see how it performs on social media. Just keep an eye out. I'll tag you in the Twitter posts and everything. That I'll grab like clips.